You're listening to the Known Legacy Podcast, brought to you by Known Legacy Ministries. For more information, go to knownlegacy.org. Now here's your hosts, Bill and Travis.
I'm just going to start like that. The camera comes on and you laugh at me. That's where we are.
Oh, it's because we were air guitaring and drumming the intro, and
it was really good.
I realized that men never outgrow their 12-year-old selves.
Never. I was for certain we turned 13.
We mature. But speaking of, and Kyle, you're going to be in on this one. Okay. We're going to talk about Christmas carols and what are some of our favorite Christmas carols. And I was shocked. So my son turned 13, so we had a bunch of kids in the car, and we went out to Big Shots, which is a golf thing. Blah blah blah, whatever.
Is it like Top Golf?
It's like Top Golf, but different. It doesn't have holes that you hit it into. It just has carpet on the. It's. Yeah, I'm not going to waste our time.
Big Shots.
This important broadcast time to explain the difference between Big Shots and Top Golf. Both are enjoyable experiences, right?
Yes.
So, anyways, we're on the way there, and my son is the DJ, which was an honor for him, I guess. And he busts out with the first song that he plays, and literally it's Mariah Carey, "All I Want for Christmas," in this car full of 12 and 13-year-old boys.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
So I'm thinking, this is a turd. This is not going to go over well. And so I'm preparing for like, hey, you should play this song, right? Because I'm the DJ.
Yeah,
I'm the old school DJ, right? I know what to play. Throw out some Beastie Boys, and we're good to, or Busty Boys, whichever one.
It's who they are now.
Yes, but every single kid in that car was screaming the lyrics, and I could not turn it up loud enough. They rolled down the windows like it was old school, like Dazed and Confused, and they're singing Mariah Carey, which for most of them, having not hit puberty, they could still hit those notes. But I'm just like, this is your song? This is your anthem?
This is your thing?
And they were just, it was hilarious. And then I started talking to some of the parents, and the parents were all like, oh yeah, they listen to it every morning. And I'm like, what? So part of me wonders if it's the song or if it's Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey circa 1994.
It's probably the production value of the video.
That's it. As a 15-year-old, that's where I was thinking.
Yeah.
Production quality of videos. It's like, wait, Mariah Carey's singing in the video? Like, I don't want to.
There's somebody there.
There's somebody
This
there.
is a Christmas song? I never got that.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. What was that all about? All I want for Christmas. So, the question to start off with.
Yes.
As we come into the Christmas season.
Yes.
What's your go-to Christmas song, your Christmas carol, your Christmas whatever? And, we'll just open it up there.
So I have a lot of them, but like the one that is obscure, like an obscure one, is Dominic the Donkey. It's great.
Have you heard this one, Kyle?
No, I've not heard it.
Oh, it's so good.
So true to form, we had this conversation 2 years ago.
Yep.
And I had never heard the song before. So Bill took it upon himself to not only let me listen to it through his phone, he texted me a link to it and the video for it, and he wanted to make sure that I was a part of the Dominic the Donkey fan club.
Yes.
So again, my kids are in the car, and I'm like, I'm going to blow them away with this horrible song that they're going to absolutely hate. And it has become one of their favorite Christmas songs. They cannot get enough of it. And now they're trying to infuse this song.
It's so good.
Well, what's the song about? Would you like to tell us a little bit about this song?
So basically, instead of, I think, if I'm wrong, please forgive me, all my Italian friends.
It is very Italian. It is the pinnacle of Italian songs, Christmas songs.
It's amazing, but it's basically about this donkey who comes to bring gifts, I believe, and it's Dominic the Donkey. And so the chorus is like jigga-de-jing, ee-aw, ee-aw. It's Dominic the Donkey. And so, and it's amazing. And so I hope it's never offended my Italian friends, but in upstate New York, it is played on the round all the time. Like, you're like, within the hour, you're going to hear it again.
It's probably like Merry Christmas to the Family from, like, that's the Texas anthem. If you know Robert Earl Keen. Do you know that song?
Nope, not a chance.
No.
What?
I have another friend who talked about Robert Earl Keen, and I'm sorry for...
I know Robert Earl Keen, I just don't know the song.
Okay, so it is... So, again, we're giving you guys stuff to waste your day away.
We're giving you gold here.
Just gold. Go search us. Merry Christmas from the Family, and it is the most redneck Christmas song. It talks about having to go to the Circle K to pick up a pack of smokes and Tab, because it was made in the... and it's just like... fantastic. It is everything Christmas Vacation, the movie, could be distilled into like redneck Texas into a song, and it's fantastic. It's an anthem that if you know Texas and you have a chance to see Robert Earl Keen this time of year, it's the stopper of the show, and it just everyone sings their guts out. It's fantastic.
Okay, good.
Nice.
What's your song,
Mr. Kyle?
Well, you know what it is. It's Christmas in Hollis, man. Run DMC.
That's it right there.
What?
It's the Die Hard.
Die
In the
Hard.
very beginning of Die Hard.
Oh, yeah.
From Christmas in Hollis. Yes.
That's it.
So good.
Yes.
Speaking of that,
Could you sing some for us?
Come
on, big boy.
I do not put singing mics in front of my mouth ever, as Bill will be able to attest. So.
I understand.
I think he's got a great voice. Sultry is the word I would use.
So, in all seriousness, one of my favorite Christmas songs is, the Christmas song.
Yeah.
And I heard a rendition of it yesterday. We went to the Chosen Christmas Spectacle Extravaganza,
yeah.
right? And it was really well done. I'm not
yeah.
saying that disparagingly. It was really well done, and I love the Christmas stories. I love the monologues and the songs, blah, blah, blah. Well, on the way home, my wife and I were in a very Christmas mood, so I decided to put on the Christmas station, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to say her name wrong because I always say it wrong. I put an N in the end of it, and I don't know why. It's Lauren Daigle?
Lauren Daigle.
Dingle.
Yeah, Lauren
Dingle?
Daigle.
Daigle. There's no N in it.
It's like bagel, but Daigle.
Well, she did 2 or 3 years ago. She did the Christmas song as like the best jazz version of the Christmas song, and it is slow, and her voice is kind of like breathy, like she's in a jazz club, and the instrumentation is fantastic. I'm like,
oh yeah.
This may be the pinnacle of the rendition of this song. Outside of the original.
Wow.
It was fantastic. I've listened to it 3 times since then.
No, there are certain songs I love, and even thinking about today, like there's one Silent Night that I love from like Mercy Me. It's kind of like an acoustic kind of deal, a little kind of poppy, but it's good. But
can you sing that song too slow?
Yes, that's like the In Excelsis Deo, where it's like glow, and it's like 8 minutes long just in the word Gloria. You gotta find the kind of like that.
The other one that if it's not played right, well, first off, Go Tell It on the Mountain. I know everyone loves this song. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a spiritual. It should have some soul to it, and you have these very Caucasian churches trying to do it, and they think the soul comes from the tempo, and they play it too slow, and so it's like Go Tell It on the Mountain.
Yeah.
And you're like 20 minutes later, you're into verse 4, and you're like, just stop.
Enjoy it. Pick it up a little bit. Have
Yeah.
a little fun.
Yeah,
But that's what I'm saying. So there are a ton of good songs. But I mean, again, Silent Night is always one I've liked. But in the midst of Silent Night, as we talked about it, it's kind of funny because I don't, I remember one time when I was younger in my faith, and my pastor had said it wasn't very silent. I was like, hang on a second, time out. This isn't what we've been singing. And he's like, he's like, sheep and goats and like they're all over the place. Right. And to kind of use that, which again, I'm not trying to take sacrilege from Silent Night. I love it. I think it's a great song, but
it's not historically accurate, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and even in that night, but I do love the side of it that says Holy Night, and you had a really cool way to talk about that, because when you saw The Chosen, I love what The Chosen does because it shows humanity, at least to some theatrical way or kind of creative way. It shows humanity, but because these guys are doing things, and
it puts flesh onto these stories that you read 2-dimensionally throughout Scripture, right?
Yeah.
And so the without giving it away, and again, a lot of people are going to be going see it this week and next week, and I know Dallas is actually in town here.
Yeah, today and this weekend.
Be doing it. So if you happen to stumble across a podcast, I think what you do is fantastic. Keep it up.
Dallas is in Dallas, is what you're saying?
I wasn't going to go there, but you did. So.
I did.
The Dominic the donkey. Da, 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 da. Anyways, and so they take on. Obviously, it's Christmas, so they're going to talk about Mary and Joseph, right? And it's them getting into Bethlehem. It's them not being able to find a place to stay, and you see this emotive reaction of Joseph of failure and struggle and frustration that any dad would have in that moment.
Of course.
And so finally, he's like, hey, I'll go find my cousin Simon. I know he's here somewhere. And Mary looks at him and goes, we don't have time. He's coming.
He's coming right now. And
that shock for Joseph of like, oh, man, the mess just got real.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, they find him in the stables, right?
Yeah.
We know that, and we have these beautiful nativity scenes. I think I have 20 of them at my house. It's one of the things my wife collects.
Likes to collect, yeah.
Oh, and they're all beautiful. You know,
they're
from
cool
the
looking,
little
yeah.
people nativity, and everyone's perfect, and everyone's, you know, clean, and everything's. And then we have this white porcelain one that's like the majestic, blah blah. Who knows how much money she spent on? I don't even care.
Yeah. Because she's worth it.
Right. But then you see Joseph and Mary actually go into the stable, and the first thing that Joseph does is he shovels and mucks out the stable.
Mm.
And it was like this shocking moment of like, here Mary, the mother of Jesus, I know that Jesus was born in a stable. I know that. But to actually see Joseph grab a tool to muck out the dung,
the poop
of the place that is going to be, and it was just this idea of like, in the midst of all of this mess, is where holiness was birthed. And I think that is, for me, it just was such a shock to the system, because so much of my life is like, God desires holiness, and that it can't exist in a mess. So I need to clean up myself, or I have to clean up my mess, and then God will like me. And what the story of the birth is, no. The holiness is birthed into the mess.
Yeah.
It's not that the mess is clean and then holiness comes, right?
And I love it, because so in the midst of our journey, we rise above our sin. We're not talking about this dirtiness in ourselves. Like God, you know, like the Scripture talks that we're new creatures, that we've been transformed. You know, the kind of the whole butterfly analogy, to where we become, you know, new creatures. But we walk through this journey. But so we move away from our mess, but it doesn't call us to be away from the mess of others.
Ooh,
and so we're rising above. But rising above doesn't look at others and go, "Oh, you're so gross," because in that moment, as you were talking about something, like, you're right, it was messy. It was dirty. We are not called away from helping other people in their mess. Like, there's something in some churches, I'll say, and especially here in the American church, that is like, okay, when you get things figured out, there's this common lie that's like, when I get things figured out, God will want me. And that is not how God is. Like,
that's
God,
the equation is backwards.
Exactly.
On that one.
It's this. You know, the Scripture talks that while we were yet enemies with God, He died for us. So it's like, while you hated God, He died for you in your mess. But we get the opportunity now as ambassadors to walk into that. But I guess what I'd say is, as we continue to pursue the heart of Jesus, the encouragement should be, it's gonna be messy and it's gonna stink.
So,
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's two lies that we're talking about. The first lie is a lie that somehow I have to clean up my mess, and then I will be acceptable to God, and God will somehow desire me or want me or come close to me, which is an absolute lie. Like you said, it's in the mess that He is born, and holiness captures us, right?
Yeah.
I think the other thing that we're talking about is the lie that once we have this relationship with God, that He's trying to rescue us and trying to protect us, and so our job is to stay away from the mess, right?
Yeah.
And it's not
like,
and like going into the hard places of life, or going into the dark places of life. That doesn't mean for us and our own gratification, but what we see with Jesus over and over again is this idea of like, He goes in there to bring rescue to people who are stuck in the mess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And now that Jesus dwells within us, our job is not to build a mighty fortress secluded away to try and establish utopia here, that when people get good enough, they can come and join us. It's a complete opposite. What we are called to do is, we know that God is with us. Through our baptism, the Spirit dwells within us now. He is in the process of cleansing us.
Yeah.
And so our job now is to go to the mess of this world and be a beacon of light, a beacon of hope, bringing the holiness of God into that moment, so that people who are finding themselves hopeless, like Joseph, trying to provide for his bride, you know, to be on the, you know, birth of Jesus, that's where the holiness is going to be. Like, we're the bringers of that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think that's the part that's so important, is that there will always be a mess.
Right.
So for us to think that the arrival of and I'm not talking about peace, because there can be peace in the midst of the mess. In fact, that's what that's what we're told, that, you know.
Well, I think peace. I think the definition of true peace is to be confident in the midst of the storm.
Yeah, exactly. And so
it's not the absence of the storm.
Exactly, the storm will still be there.
Right.
Exactly. Right. And so I won't put this in anybody else. I still tend to define my brokenness as, man, I should be over this by now, and I should be fixed.
Right.
When I forget that there is an enemy who wants to destroy us on the constant. And so it's always going to be messy to steal, kill, and destroy, to be deceived. Like we were just talking about with the apostles who fell asleep with Jesus. Like it's still messy. Jesus, like, are you serious? I've got a couple hours and you're asleep.
Right, Kyle, that's what you've been talking about.
Yeah. Go for it.
Well, I just think you gotta accept grace or not. You're talking about grace.
Yeah.
Right. You're talking about the fact that it doesn't matter what we've done, what we look like, how dirty we are. Jesus already paid for it. So why are we dwelling? I mean, that's not a hey, here's your platinum carte blanche card that you get to do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is, hey, he's already paid for it.
Right.
And he loves me. How can I? You got to not hold it against yourself.
Well, and that's what Paul talks about in particularly Corinthians, where he says, because I've received this grace, does that mean I can do anything I want? Well, yeah, but is it beneficial and efficacious? And I think part of the challenge that we have is we fear that if we bring holiness into the mess, somehow the mess will affect the holiness.
Yeah.
And what we have to be reminded of is like, no, the holiness is transcendent.
Yeah.
There's nothing the mess can do to change the holiness of God.
Yeah.
Right? I think we again flip that equation sometimes.
Well, so it's funny because even as you're talking about it, just the idea that there was in the reality of life, when Joseph had a choice to muck this stable out, that when someone's like, hey, there is all I have left is this stable, and he's like, okay, that's what we've got,
right.
And we're going to make it the best we can, and we have definitely purified in our mind, those in the church have made it a clean looking stable. But you're right, it's a mess. But I feel like that is indicative to who God is. Like I'm going to, in the midst of your mess, in the midst of your journey, I'm going to bring life.
Right.
And I'm going to bring hope in holiness. And that's what we were talking about earlier, is the idea that holiness, I don't know how he said it because it sounded really, really good, but holiness permeates the mess.
Right.
And gives us an opportunity in the midst of the mess to see holiness. Like the holiness of the world. The Son of God was born in the dirtiest of places.
Correct.
That should encourage your heart that if you're in the midst of the dirty, if you're in the midst of the broken, you are not too far gone.
Right.
I was talking about this week about the idea, like some people say, well, if I walk into the church, lightning would strike me. It's like,
I hate that phrase.
That's not the character of God. He was born in a stable, and when we mean stable, we don't mean horse stable. That was nice and clean, even a horse stable is somewhat put together. But this idea of the junk of junk inside a cave, and so you're going, he was willing to do that. And so there's something to be said about that from the minute that he was born on this earth, that he was willing to get into your mess.
Right.
And now it's our calling to get into the mess as well. Because it made me think about this. I was going to read this verse because I was checking this out. John 16. Jesus is about to die, and it's 31 to 33. Let me try to find it really quick. It says, Jesus answered them, "Do you now believe? Behold, the hour is coming. Indeed, it has come, when you will be scattered to each to his own home, and will leave me alone. Yet I'm not alone, for the Father's with me. I've said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world." And I love it because in that
overcome
verse,
the mess.
Yeah,
that's another way to say that. Like, take heart, I've overcome the mess.
Like as he's sitting there cleaning things out, he's like, "Don't worry, I know it looks like everything's bad, and I'm gonna die. I've overcome it.
Right.
I'm not even worried." He was concerned,
right.
But it's like he wasn't worried that he hadn't overcome it. He was fearful because fear is a reality, but I've already overcome it. And so I love that idea that right now in our mess and other messes, we have the ability to come and help people because of what Jesus did in us.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love it.
And I think it's a shock to the system to process it that way because, most of the Christmas songs are all about these beautiful, peaceful, amazing moments, except for Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
That's a solid...
hilarious story real quick that has nothing to do with anything. So it was 6th grade, and I was at a school for creative and performing arts. I know, shocker. And the choir teacher was fantastic. She was very energetic and everything else. And we would sing, not just for our class, but for the school. And then we would go to other elementary schools and sing. Well, she was so proud because this year she had lined up a nursing home for us to go sing. And the closer of the entire concert was Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, right?
Oh, my.
So we're practicing it. And again, 6th grade mind, you don't put all these pieces together. And then we're at the nursing home. We're all up on the stage, and we're all, or like the risers that we had to move in and set up and everything else. And it's time for this. And she is just pounding away on the piano like it is like Carnegie Hall. She's like, and just having the time of her life. And all of us kids are shocked as we're looking at these elderly folks going, Grandma got run over by a reindeer. I'm so sorry, you're about to die. And it was a shock to the system.
That's hilarious. We didn't put 2 and 2 together.
No.
Oh, but
so there was a mess there that God was born into.
Exactly, that's it. So
that's the tie-in.
That's the tie-in right there. But no, I mean, but there's something valuable about the mess. If you're not in a mess, I would almost wonder where you are as a child of God. Like the encouragement is there's going to be, as a child of God, you're going to have stuff you're going to consistently trudge through.
Well, okay, so let's look at Paul and his journey in the missionary world. Right?
Yeah.
How many times would he go into a town? And again, we like to assume that if God's in something, it's going to be easy or there's going to be peace about it, right?
Yeah.
Well, often if God's in something, there's mess surrounding it initially, right? And so Paul would go into these towns, and immediately what would happen? He would gather a few people together. He'd be pushing culture. He'd be pushing doctrine into their hearts and in their minds. The religious leaders or the cultural leaders of the day would get upset with him, and then they'd put him in prison, or they'd beat him, or they beat him to the point of death. And then his followers surround them, pray over him, and he comes back like this, like And what does he do? He doesn't go, well, God's obviously not in this. This is hard. This is messy. He goes, let's go back into town.
Let's do it again.
That's where the mess is. That's where I'm called to go. Let's go. And he just lived this personified, wherever the mess is, that's where God's active because people need rescue, and the only rescue comes from God.
And you can't think that in the midst of the mess you're not going to have some get all over you. And I think that's it. Like there's things in our journeys that as we try to rescue people out of this hopeless state, that we are going to be involved. You're going to get the 2 o'clock in the morning phone calls. You're gonna have the stresses and the anxieties that other people don't. And you're like, well, wait, this should be easier for them. It's like, well, no, the problem is the enemy's got you on his radar now,
right?
Because you're trying to redeem and bring truth to something. So that is the encouragement. So take a breath for a minute and stop and realize, man, I am bringing life to brokenness, and that's why it's hard.
Right now, Kyle, you had a great illustration because it's on your mind because you just bought one, and it's this idea of like, the mess doesn't change the holiness that's in you.
Right.
Because the holiness comes from God, not from you.
Yeah.
And so share your illustration that you came up with, that you shared earlier.
So you get a new car, and for example, a truck.
Use a Jeep.
A Jeep.
You're getting a Jeep. Use the Jeep.
And you go out, and you got this brand new, shiny, perfect vehicle, and you go out and you get it all mudded up.
Right, because that's what Jeeps are designed
for.
That's
what they're designed for.
They're designed to get mudded up and
covered
dirty.
in mud, and you drive back in town, and the thing's just a mess.
Right.
And nobody would know it was.
Now, at that moment, are you apologizing to other people like, I'm so sorry, my Jeep's a mess? No, you're driving around going,
and then
exactly what this Jeep is used for is what I just did.
And then you wash it, and it's brand new again. All the dirt's gone.
But I love the idea that in the midst of it, so now we're going to take this down a little bit more, but the joy that was on the inside of the Jeep after doing that has always remained. The problem is a lot of times we try to fix the outside, and people come in trying to fix the outside when there is this lie that you have to come in, put together. And that is not even where the mess exists.
Right.
The mess exists inside of us. And if you're not letting people into your mess, you're not being strong. I would say there's no strength in you, honestly, because you're trying to keep this wall up. So the challenge as a child of God is to go, I need to bring this mess to others, and they actually want it. Like that's how we're designed. We're designed to know each other.
Bear each other's burdens in Colossians 3. Bear each other's burdens.
So we are made to know each other. Now, we're not made to probably know everybody's mess. That's a lot of stress. And that's why people buy a lot of Jack Daniels, I think. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just, and I'm saying that facetiously, but it's true. Like people run to other things because they're alone. But if we have somebody that knows our mess, you know what I'm talking about out there. Like there's somebody that you're like, I could call that person. And once I call them, I'm like, okay, I'm good. There's something about sharing your mess. Your mess needs to be shared with others. It's not meant to be on your own. because the holiness of God as a child of God resides within us, and we get to bring that holiness to others and say, hey, there is a hope beyond me. I have a mess too, but in the midst of this, I have a holiness that I lean on that's not myself. There is no 10-step plan to a better me. There is holiness in God, and God, this is what I need to pursue after.
So as you sing these amazing Christmas songs, and if you aren't involved in a church, I would encourage you, man, find a church for Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. They are some of the best services that churches are passionately putting their time and energy to, and just be surrounded by these beautiful songs and all of these perfect moments, right? But in the midst of all of it, remember, God is not born into the perfection. God is born into the mess. And He loves you where you are.
Absolutely. And, and as whenever you've heard this, if you're hearing this right now, as we're posting it, we'll put a link in there, but we're doing a family advent for Known Legacy.
Yes.
And so just download that. I know we're already a week into it, but if I'll be honest with you, me and my family have tried to get to do it, and we're like, okay, we're going to do 4 days now together. And it's okay. You just pick up the ball and you go with it. But it's a time to stop and get things right, to say, hey, family, let's just sit down, whether it's you and your spouse or whether it's you and your children or your grandchildren. It's time to stop and recognize that this is all about God, and that is bringing holiness into the story by going, God, this is about you. It's not about me.
Right. Absolutely.
So
love it.
We'll have those links in there, guys. Hey. And maybe we'll even put in Dominic the Donkey in there just to make sure.
We will not put in Merry Christmas from the family, because I just remember the first few lines. Mom got drunk and Dad got drunk.
You did show me that song.
Christmas party. Yeah.
You did show me that song.
So it's yeah.
See, that's all I need some lyrics.
So we won't be doing that.
Oh, awesome.
Anyways, love being a part of this. Thank you, Bill, for making this happen. Kyle, thank you for your insights and insights today. As always, info@knownlegacy.org. If you have questions, comments, concerns, or your favorite Christmas song that you want to share with us that we need to talk about, and download the Advent resources either from the link here or go to the Facebook page, Known Legacy Ministries.
Yep.
And you can get all the good stuff there. So thank you very much,
Check
Bill.
us out on Instagram @KnownLegacy. We'd love to connect with you guys.
Absolutely. God bless you guys.
Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Known Legacy Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. So email us your questions or comments to info@knownlegacy.org.